Now we are completely running a car stereo system off of a power supply that plugs into the wall. Have you ever thought about using a car stereo head unit or amplifier in a home environment or maybe your garage? Well, I bet you a lot of you have old head units, old car stereo equipment that's just kind of sitting around in a box. Why not hook it up and use it in a home environment? A lot of people think it's really cool to pull out some of this old school equipment, maybe your first system you ever had, maybe a powered subwoofer for the home using car audio equipment. How cool would that be? Well, this video I've decided to put together 5 different ways to power your car stereo in your home, ranging anywhere from $20 up to $200 or more. Now, the first thing to realize is car stereo equipment uses 12-volt DC or direct current, whereas home audio uses 120 or 240-volt AC or alternating current. So we have to convert AC to DC to use your car stereo equipment at home. Now, the first option I'm showing is an ATX power supply breakout adapter. The one shown here is $19, but they do have them even cheaper on Amazon, around $12. And basically all it does is takes your computer ATX power supply and converts it into an easier way to plug in 12-volt electronics. Here I'll show this one, which has a USB port, has an on-off button, and has easy screw-down terminals, and it is enclosed inside of a plastic enclosure, so it keeps everything from shorting out, kind of like this one of all the ones. But you do have to have a power supply. So if you don't have a computer power supply just laying around, then this is probably not the option for you. And I would suggest looking on to something else. But if you do have a power supply and want an easy way to get it hooked up, then these adapters are definitely the easiest way, because you have these screw down terminals, you have a power button. Makes it super simple to go ahead and connect your 12-volt electronics. Here I'll show the 12-volt connection here off of the adapter, and you can see it's 11.73 volts, so not quite 12 volts, a little bit under. But anyway, if you do have a power supply already, this is an inexpensive way to get you a car stereo setup in your home. Now, the good stuff, inexpensive, $20 or less, depending on which adapter. It's very simple to use, and it has a built-in switch and USB if you get the correct one. Things to consider: it does need an ATX power supply. It has small terminals for about 16 gauge wire. It's a fixed 12-volt output, so you cannot vary that. And really, it's designed for head unit only. You can't use an amplifier. Number 2, the 144-watt universal power supply multi-use power adapter for under $30. And here we'll unbox it. We can see the brand is Wee Foamy. Who knows what the brand is that you'll get? But this is basically just a multi-purpose variable power supply that comes with all kind of different adapters, and very useful to have one of these, not only for your car stereo stuff, but for anything else electronic that you may have that you need to power up, because you can vary the voltage from 0 to 30 volts. And yeah, you got different adapters like this one. You see the minus and the plus here. You see the connections, which are very small, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll also have a multimeter here because you want to test it and see how close it is. And they say 14.1, and they're right at 14.1 according to this super cheap voltmeter. Now, this one is variable as well, but the voltage varies very quickly. This potentiometer here is very touchy, so you have to be careful to make sure you don't overvolt your car stereo equipment, which can really not take much more than about 15.5 volts. A lot of it will shut down after that. But yeah, for under $30, this is very useful and would work with car stereo. Now let's take a closer look, and I'll show you it in action. When you buy this power supply, you get several different tips that you can use with it, which is really nice if you have older electronics or something that you don't have a power adapter for. You can use these to adapt it. It also comes with a adapter here which switches the polarity. It has alligator clips. I think this is the polarity switcher, sorry. That's just a standard lead. But anyway, depending on how you want to hook it up to like your head unit or whatever, if you're just doing testing, you can use the alligator leads. But if you want something a little bit more permanent, you can use this one here at the end, which actually pops off and has 2 different screw down terminals. That's the one I'm going to use here to power this head unit. Let's try it out. All we're going to do is take this little adapter here and just plug it in, and then we're going to make sure we have the polarity correct which is negative on the left, positive on the right, and we will get this connected to the head unit and we'll power it up. Actually, I got a little ahead of myself. What I would do with this one first is I would go ahead and plug it in so that we can adjust the voltage to a safe voltage for use with 12-volt electronics. So let's do that before we hook it up to the head unit. So as we power this on, it takes it a minute to come on once you turn it, literally like 10 seconds or so to see the voltage at all. It's 11.4. Now you're safe anywhere between about 10.5 and maybe about 15.5. So I'm gonna try to get up to about 14.5. It's about right there. That's what we'll use. So now let's get the head unit wired up. And if you want to be completely safe, you can actually wire this, set up this wiring here without it connected to the power adapter, and then we'll plug it in. So let's go ahead and get the wires in here and we'll tighten them down and we'll come right back. Obviously, you want to make sure that your wires are not touching. In this case, I probably should have had them a little bit shorter. But anyway, let's go ahead and plug them in. And we'll show you the head unit here. We'll go ahead and power it up. And we'll switch to the USB. We'll listen to some music. Obviously, this is a simple head unit here, very inexpensive, I think $30 or under. It does have 4 speaker outputs. We've only got one hooked up, but if you want to hook up multiples, you can. This little power adapter here should be able to handle most standard head units that don't have big power leads on them. If you have an Alpine or something like that, or maybe one of the Sonys that's 4x100, that's going to be too big for this small power supply. But for a standard head unit, this should work fine. In order to make this a solderless and crimpless process, what I like to use is these terminal strips. In this case, this is a smaller 10 amp style terminal strip. The 25 amp style have bigger connections here or easier for wiring, but for a head unit, this one works fine. This one has got, as you can see, 10 different positions, so you can use 4 channels of power for speakers, and then still have 2 connections here at the end to use for your power and turn on, and also your ground connection. So the one thing you may want to do is add a switch in between the turn on lead here, which is the red one, and what that would allow you to do is not lose your radio settings and stuff like that every time you power down the head unit. But you would have to use leave the power supply on the entire time in order to keep those memories. If not, when you shut it off, it's just going to shut it off completely. As for the good stuff, it's inexpensive, under $30. It's very simple, has multiple applications, use it with all different kind of electronics, and a variable voltage is very useful. Things to consider, it's only 4 amps, so really head unit power only, no external amplifiers. Generic quality longevity, not sure about that, and it has small connections as well. Number 3, we have a desktop variable power supply, which is 10 amps and variable from 0 to 30 volts DC, and is about $75 on Amazon. I've had one of these probably for 3 or 4 years now, and it's been rock solid, no issues with it at all. It is rather cheaply made. It kind of feels plasticky, but yes, having that variable voltage and having up to 10 amps is very nice for all different kinds of electronics and bench use, not only car stereo head units, but yeah, it's very flexible overall, and it's been rock solid, like I said, so no problems with it. I will talk about it a little bit more and give you some demos, so let's move to that. I originally purchased this unit because it was variable from 0 to 30 volts and 0 to 10 amps, so it worked great for charging the Headway lithium cells, also charging up the Yinlong cells that I have that I use on my test bench. But this thing is very useful, would work great for powering a head unit, for doing some simple things on your bench. But let's go ahead and get it hooked up, and I'll show you how to hook up your head unit as well. So we have this plugged into our AC outlet. We'll go ahead and power it up. And there you can see voltage is on this side, current is on this side, which is kind of nice because it'll show you how much current we're pulling through the head unit. Now this comes standard with these alligator style clips here that you can hook up, but you can use some banana plugs or binding posts to hook up different types if you want to wire it directly to your head unit. But let's go ahead and hook up this dual head unit and see how it works. So as you can see on the screen here, we're on 14.1 volts. There's two different adjustments here. One is for coarse adjustment for turning it up quickly, and this other one here is for fine adjustments for just turning up like a tenth at a time. So we'll leave it on about 14.5 volts. And we'll go ahead and get our power and ground lead here from our dual head unit. And we'll go ahead and get this connected up. All right, there you can see it's coming on. Let's go ahead and switch it to the USB. And we'll find us a track here that we can play. Again, we're showing the current here live, which is really nice. You can see about half of an amp powering one speaker with pretty good volume. If you have the space on your bench, I would much rather have this one than that small power supply, because this one gives you a lot more information, tells you the current, lets you fine tune the voltage adjustment, where the other one was very touchy in adjusting the voltage. There you have it. This is the up to 10 amp 0 to 30 volt adjustable desktop power supply. The things we like, of course, it is variable from 0 to 30 volts DC. You can charge lithium cells, and flexible use on bench top for doing all kind of electronics on your bench. Things to consider, it's only 10 amps. So you can't use big amplifiers. There is some fan noise, only alligator leads included, and generic quality. Not real sure about that, but again, I've had this one for several years with no issues. Okay, move on to number 4. We have the battery charger / power supply, and these range from 35 amps to around 100 amps, and even more, obviously, depending on which one you choose. And a lot of these are called RV power supplies because people use them in recreational vehicles, but the Power Max 100 amp power supply here is shown for $180. These have been very reliable. A lot of people have used these over the years and been pretty happy with them. If you go to their website, they talk about it. You can use it as a charger. You can use it as a straight power supply. It'll do lithium, lead acid, and AGM. And it has a switch on the side, so you can switch it into fixed voltage mode, which is what you'd want to do when you're powering car audio equipment in your home. Now, I have shown examples before, and Blaze Legend on YouTube actually shared a video with me a while back, and he had a crazy setup with a big amplifier and 4 massive HCCA subwoofers by Ryan. Just crazy. I'll leave the link in the video description if you want to see that video. As for the good stuff, it is multifunction. It charges various batteries, lead acid, AGM, lithium, variable voltage as well. It does have larger power terminals. Supports full systems, amplifiers, head units, all kind of good stuff for your car audio. Things to consider, it is larger, it is more expensive obviously, and there is some fan noise, so you have to be aware of that as well. And for number 5, we'll talk about the car audio power supply. These range anywhere from 10 amps all the way up to 100 amps. And the one I'm showing here is the Massive Audio BP PS100. It's about $315 on Amazon at the time of this video. We'll leave a link below. But I have like 4 or 5 of these, used them over the past 5-6 years. They have been very reliable, and I really like them because they'll charge the batteries. They'll also work. You can use multiples together. You can actually link them together, all kind of good stuff. They have 0 gauge inputs here for the power and ground. They have a little voltmeter that comes with them as well. Of course, I use these in conjunction with my huge lithium bank with Yinlong and Excess Power lithium cells, LTO cells, to be able to power these amplifiers up to 15,000 watts on my test bench, as you have seen before in my videos. Now, Taramps also has a smart charger, and they have a few of them ranging from 70 amps to over 100 amps. And right now, as the time of this video, the best deal, I think, is this Taramps 100 amp power supply, the smart charger here for $150. Hopefully it'll be the same price when you check it out in my link below. But I actually just bought one of these and it's on the way, so I will check it out and let you guys know. But it looks like it would work well, and I have an idea That's right, car stereo subwoofer in my home theater using a car audio amplifier. I know it sounds dumb, but we're going to do it anyway. So if you want to go all out with your setup, something like this massive audio BP PS100 power supply or the tar amps that I also show in the description will let you pretty much wire in. And by the way, this goes up to 0 gauge. This is only 4 gauge. And yes, I should have used some ferrules there, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Go into a fuse block, a distribution block for the ground. And then we're going to a head unit. RCA outs are going into this old school Precision Power A300 amplifier, and then go into our B&W desktop speakers. So let's turn everything on here and see how it works. Okay, clean wire club. This does not match what you guys would recommend, I'm sure, but you could do this better if you have more time. Turn it on at 14 volts. This is variable here. We're going to keep it around 14. And we'll go ahead and power on the head unit. Welcome. And we'll switch it over to USB and go ahead and get it to a track. And normally you would have the head unit coming out of the head unit going into the input here of the amplifier, but we have it on a different switch. So let's go ahead and power the amplifier up. There you go. Now we are completely running a car stereo system off of a power supply that plugs into the wall. And obviously you can use multiple amps. You could use a sub amp. You could power a car audio subwoofer in the home using a car audio amplifier if you wanted to make your own version of a powered sub. But obviously you're limited by the output of the power supply, in this case 100 amps. But if you had like additional battery in line, or if you had a cap bank or lithium batteries or something in line with this power supply / charger, then you can really run a pretty big system in your home. And the fun part about this is it lets you kind of learn how to wire everything up and how to wire up your car stereo before you do it in your car. It's much easier to do it on a table. Get you one of those big fold-up tables or something and just kind of learn how to run everything, how to wire it, and how to hide all your wires. It's just a lot of fun to do this. And I do recommend, if you're going to do this with any amplifier, I would go ahead and get one of these car audio style power supplies. Again, I'll leave the links below. I've used this massive audio and I've got about 5 of them, but I've used these over the last 5 or 6 years and they've been very reliable. However, the tar amps one that I'm linked below is about half the price of this one, and tar amps has been making some good stuff. So I'm actually going to get one of those and try it out with a home subwoofer using a car amp that I plan in a future video. But yeah, go ahead and get you a power supply to power your car audio at home and have some fun. These power supplies designed for car audio at home, they look like a car audio amp, which is really cool. They offer charging plus power supply capability. They're designed for car audio. They have variable voltage with large power terminals, and they support full systems. Things to consider, they are more expensive, so if you're only doing a head unit, you don't need anything this big, but if you want to run a full system, definitely need one of these, and possible fan noise. So what are my recommendations based on what I've already shown you, the 5 different options? Well, it really comes down to, what are you trying to do with this power supply? Are you trying to run just a head unit? Maybe you have an old school EQ booster or something you just want to play around with, or maybe just an old head unit. Things like that you can really get by with just one of these simple adjustable power supplies like this one for under $30. This will do all that you need to do for less than $30, and plus you can use it for all different other kind of things as well. Now, if you have amplifiers, you want to run kind of a full system or do a powered subwoofer with like 1,000 watt or 1,500 watt amplifier, you definitely want to go with the car audio power supply. Now, one of my best examples of use of car audio power supply is this coffin I had made a few years ago with this old school Rockford Fosgate equipment, Boston Acoustics equipment, and yeah, this thing is just super sweet. And it did use a car audio power supply to be able to power all this car stereo equipment. And yeah, what gets cooler than that, right? As I mentioned already, I have ordered one of the Tar Amps 100 amp smart chargers. And when that comes in, I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to power a car audio subwoofer in my home theater, and that'll be fun. Now, you also may want to pick up a multimeter if you don't have one. These terminal strips, I will link those below as well. Make it easy to wire everything up without needing any kind of soldering or connectors. Also, some wire strippers if you don't have those. Obviously, you want to pick some of those up. Now, I didn't get into the custom methods of doing this by hacking a ATX power supply yourself or by hacking an Xbox power supply. There's all different kind of ways you can do this. I tried to give you 5 of the most simple ways to use car stereo in your home. I'd love to hear how you guys are doing it though, so leave me a comment below. Let me know. Till next time, this Big D, I'm out of here.